Hello, today I'm going to show you how I paint reflections in running water, alla prima, or in one sitting. So I've just painted this rough background to get started with, and now I'm going to start adding in the reflections. So the first thing I'm going to do is just mark in loosely where these trees are, just here. So I'm just going to take just a flat brush here and just very roughly just blob on the colour, not paying too much attention to how precise it is because I'm going to blend this later. I'm really not too worried about form, just general shapes. All I want to do is just get the colours more or less where they are. One thing about reflections is that they don't actually reflect from where they appear. So this tree, for example, you wouldn't put the reflection exactly down to here, for example. It actually reflects from the horizon line, so that's the horizon there. So I would say most likely the reflection would end approximately here. Now I'm just going to loosely mark where the dark parts of the clouds are going to reflect, just approximately, just little dabs. And we're going to imagine that above us there's another cloud, so let's just say that will reflect about here. Then I'm going to dip back into my sky mix and just very roughly block in where that is. Just being very rough because this is a reflection, it's not going to be clear. And finally, just an impression of where the highlights are. Now that I've more or less put where all the main shapes and colours are, what I'm going to do to achieve the effect of reflections is I'm going to take a large flat brush like this, and I'm just going to gently pull down these shapes to make it look like it's coming down like this. So I'm pressing quite hard and just dragging down. See how that creates a very vertical looking idea? Now after each stroke, just to avoid blending the green into the blue, I'm just wiping off my brush and pulling down again. This just drags the colours ever so slightly. I'm going to repeat this process a few times because this paint is drying quite fast, just to add a bit more texture. And as I go, I'm just going to pull it straight down like that. So just adding extra texture, communicating reflections. The main thing you want is to get that vertical shape, communicates the reflection of the trees. Just pulling down. What is really going to communicate water is the horizontal plane. So here I've established my reflections, so they are vertical, and what's going to show that this is water are these little lines here. So what I'm doing is I'm dipping into a slightly lighter version of my sky mix here, and I've put plenty of medium into my mix to make it thicker. And I'm using a flat brush because it's got that flat edge that I want to create these straight lines. So it's going to be really easy with this brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add just little intermittent dashes to show where the water is reflecting. Now, the main thing you need to pay attention to here is that they're all parallel to each other, otherwise it's not going to show as flat. Now, while this is still reasonably wet, I'm going to take my dry, larger flat brush here, and I'm just going to blend it horizontally. So just being very careful not to interfere too much with this. I'm just going to very lightly drag it across. Just being very careful that I'm keeping it horizontal. The last little touch that's really going to finish this painting off is redefining the riverbanks. So for that, I'm going to use this brush here just because it's got a very fine point, and I've taken the same blue mix and I've added a little bit of white just to make it pop slightly. Mixed in plenty of medium and made sure I've got a nice fine point, and I'm just going to very, very lightly put in tiny little ripple marks that form on the very edge of the water, just very finely, just to redefine where the water is making contact with the banks.